but hashtag dominate.
Right.
How does that frame your lifestyle?
So I don't want to be selfish when I say this because the dominion mentality, the word dominate, that's not a term that's exclusive to me.
Yeah.
That's a mandate.
A mandate.
That God has given each and every one of us.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Michael Jamel, aka Mike G, jazz saxophonist / producer, and I want to welcome you to a special edition of the Hot Tea and Incense podcast. And I got none other than Mr. Dominate himself, the creator of the Masterclass Options Trading Series, and I want a list of other things.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Adams.
How you doing, bro?
Mr. Phillip Adams.
You're far too kind. Far too kind.
What's up, bro? It's been too long, actually. It's been a long time coming.
I'm glad that I was finally able to make it out.
Facts, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Bro, when did you start doing a podcast?
I know, right?
I remember you hit me like, hey, are you coming on a podcast? I'm like, bro, what podcast are you talking about? So that's dope, man. You know, you always got your hands into something, and I admire that, King. Real talk.
Nah, it's funny because I kind of fell into it. And it was kind of like I knew that when I was doing the music and when you have ideas, you're building like a whole sound and a vibe. And something said you got to create a culture. Right? But that was right around the time the pandemic hit.
Okay.
So when the pandemic hit, we all stressed out.
Everything shut down.
So I was like, I had got into a few destructive ways to relieve stress.
Okay.
And I said, I want to find something healthy. Then comes the hot tea and the incense. And I said, you know what? That's it. You got to do a podcast. And I was like,
okay.
Yeah, it just kind of hit me that that's part of every artist now kind of, the music doesn't always say it all.
Okay.
So sometimes you got to let people understand the whole thing through the conversations and stuff that you like, man, if people can hear this, they'll know this.
Right.
And so I'm like, you know what? Let's do it.
Right.
And you're one of them people, though, that we always have God-inspired, like, divine wisdom type of conversations. So I'm excited to have you on, none the least.
Man, that's dope, man. I think that you're definitely influential, brother. And with you creating this podcast, you not only create an additional voice for yourself, but you give people an opportunity to, express their voice and be heard. And I think that's really dope, man. So everyone that's been to the podcast, or that sat in this chair and at this table has been blessed, you know what I'm saying, just to be a part of it. So that's dope. So salute to that, bro.
Hey, already, bro. Salute to you. So first we're going to start off reading the T captions.
Okay.
Before I forget. And this is funny. That's why I had to stop you while you was talking earlier.
Okay.
To get into this because the T already spoke to it. That's how I know God in the room.
Okay, let's go.
It says, accept who you are in this moment, but acknowledge who you want to become.
Okay. So mine says, give to others and give to yourself the same attention.
That's fire.
That remind me of the end of that Kendrick song when he says, I choose me, I'm sorry.
Facts.
I respect that.
Facts.
Okay.
And it's funny because you was talking about how God can talk to you now.
Through the memories on social media.
Right? And it says, accept who you are in this moment, but acknowledge who you want to become.
Exactly.
So I'm going to touch on that with you. So sometimes I feel like it's as if you're talking to yourself.
Okay.
When you putting stuff out, it's like that gospel song where they say, encourage yourself.
Okay.
The message that you putting out as encouragement, I've had that too in Facebook memories or, stuff that you said in the past.
Yes, sir.
Where it come back around when you got a low moment and it be like.
You speak right to yourself.
You be like, dog.
Yeah.
Am I preaching to me?
Yeah. And you look yourself in the mirror, you can't even be depressed. Not at all.
Facts.
Because you
Facts.
done spoke life into yourself when at one time you were saying that to speak life into someone else. And I think that's so dope. God has a great sense of humor.
Facts. So I would be remiss if I didn't, ask you this question to start it off.
Okay.
Because creating the masterclass option series, how did you get into the trading stocks? Because you're one of the people I know was on trading stocks before it became like
Before the wave, right?
a fad now.
Right.
So
Okay.
obviously you was privy to something,
Yeah.
before it popped. But what made you join into that wave and create like your own class, teaching it and everything like that?
So out of respect, for the time of the podcast, I'll give a short version of this story. So I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I was caught up in a situation when I was 18. Well, I was facing 15 years in jail, for a gun case, drug case, and expulsion from high school. And during that moment in time, and my mother found out that I was selling drugs. She was a recovering addict. And so she's like, listen, if you stop selling drugs and learn how to invest your money in stocks, you could be successful, be a millionaire that way. And this was right when I had, God blessed me to beat those cases and go into the military. And I didn't even really know what the stock market was. And so when I graduated A school, I went to Barnes & Noble's. It was a bookstore called Borders in Chicago, near the west side of Chicago, and bought a book about stocks. And this was right when the Apple had came out with the iPod right around this time. And the stock just skyrocketed. And I'll never forget, reading this story of how Apple stock had popped. And it just hit me like, man, I was on the corners, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, screaming rocks, blows, weed, park, pulling up on different people's blocks, trying to hustle and risking my life doing it, and it just hit me like, damn, I can flip, flip it the same way, instead of flipping packs, selling jabs, I can flip stocks from a phone, or from a computer. And so that was early 2000s. I started getting involved with penny stocks. When I went to the Navy, I got real lucky. I had took a $10,000 loan from Navy Federal. I had opened up a share builder account at that time, and I bought like 20,000 shares of this penny stock for like 50 cents a share. Right, cost me 10 bands, $10,000. Some type of news came out. The next day, the stock gapped up to like $2.50 from 50 cents a share, and I had made like $50,000 overnight. And from that moment,
you knew it was real.
I knew it was real and what I wanted to do. Now I was humbled afterwards because this was right after September 9/11, and we were in the war of what was called Operation Enduring Freedom. And so when our ship would go out to sea, and when we would deploy, they would cut off communications. And so with me making $50,000 overnight, I'm like, okay, I'm finna run the bag up. I'm finna try to make 100, then 500, then a million. And so I break bread, I diversify, that the gains that I made into 5 different penny stocks. I go out to sea, they shut communications down for like 2 months. I can't monitor nothing. By the time I got back on the computer, it was gone. What I'm saying? But, there are 2 types of people. You got the people that look at the glasses half empty and the glasses half full. You see what I'm saying? So I'm the type of person, I focus on the positive, like, what the song say, if he did it before, he could do it again. That was my thought pattern. Like, if I did it before, I can do it again. The fact that I did it legally was enough for me.
Yeah.
And so from that moment forth, I was determined to learn, okay, what happened to make this stock go up, 500% overnight?
Yeah.
And how can I duplicate that process? And so that desire to recreate that opportunity for myself is what ultimately led me into learning about stock options, because most of the penny stock opportunities, they're fraudulent. They listed on the pink sheets. They're companies that really don't exist. That we can set up an LLC right now. Use a post office box or just rent out a small office at one of these commercial properties around the corner. And then we can hire a marketing company to pump stock that we create out of thin air and list it on the pink sheets, and get people to buy it and run it up, and then sell all our shares and just collapse it. Right? That process is still technically legal to a certain degree. certain aspects of it. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, manipulation is legal, but the process of doing so, you can still get away with. Not at all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so those opportunities were not reliable. But I found out about options before Twitter really became Twitter. Like within 6 months after Twitter was released, I had an idea to put in a search queue stock traders, and then I found people that this was before there was even a financial Twitter.
So as far as options, explain the difference between a stock and options for just the average listener.
Okay, so a stock is when you're actually taking a small piece of ownership in a company, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say the manufacturers, if this tea company, right? If we buy a share.
Yogi. Shout out to Yogi Teas.
If we buy a share of, you said Yogi?
Yeah.
If we buy a share of that stock, then we own a small piece of that company, right? Mm-hmm. So shares deal with ownership. An options contract, it's like a side bet, right?
Side bet.
Right. It's like a side bet on a dice game. We're placing a side bet at the crap table.
Nah, that was a great analogy.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like a side bet on it's like sports betting almost. It's like you don't own an NBA team, right? You don't own an NFL team, but you can place a bet that if this team wins, then you make money off of that bet, right? Yeah. And so options contracts are the same. So options contracts allow you to place a bet on a stock to where, let's say, if a stock increase in value and you bet that stock is going to go up, your options contract will increase in value as well. Or you could place a bet against a stock that if that stock falls, that options contract will increase in value if the stock falls. Now, part of that contract gives you the right to buy shares if you want to at a certain price, right? So let's say you buy a contract that has a $100 strike price, right? And let's say the stock is currently $95. And let's say that stock has amazing earnings and the stock increases in value and goes up to, let's say, $120 per share. Anybody else that want to buy shares of that stock, they have to buy it now at $120, right, per share. But if you purchased an options contract that had a $100 strike, you can buy that stock now because you have a contract for $100 per share. And if you execute that options contract, that right that you have, you can instantly sell those shares for $120 per share.
Word.
If you decide to execute your right within that contract. Or you could just sell the contract for a higher price and walk away with the profit. So that's the difference between a stock and an options contract.
Okay. And anything else y'all want to learn, y'all gonna have to check out my man course, masterclass. But something you said too made me think about, we was out there on the golf course earlier. My first time playing golf, I would say it was definitely a new experience. It was a beautiful experience. Out here in nature. It was a little more strenuous than I thought.
Hey, you didn't expect the 18 holes to go so hard.
I didn't expect it was the 18. It was a 4-hour course. But beautiful thing is, round the end, right, on the 17th hole, I guess, I learned something that I was doing wrong the whole time. And I was able to hit the ball farther than I was previously. And it was like, felt right. Everything was like, oh, something clicked.
Right.
So to speak back what you were saying with the stocks, when you earned that money, even though you lost it.
Exactly.
Something clicked.
It clicked. Right.
Yeah, and you was like, I can do it now. Like, and I feel like that's when you really earn the wealth. Getting the wealth is not when you get it, it's getting the knowledge of how to get it and duplicate it. Like, now I know that I know that I know how to do it.
Yeah, and that reminds me of something that I had learned from Bishop T.D. Jakes. You know, he said that exposure can change your life. So just being exposed to something long enough, that small spark of exposure can just change the entire trajectory of your life. You know what I'm saying? So being exposed to that type of profit generation in such a short period of time, that was it. It wasn't even it was about the money, but it wasn't about the money I made at that moment. It was about the fact that it was possible to make that type of money in that type of time. And that was the wealth for me. It's like, okay, if I learn how to do this, this is something no one can ever take away from me. I don't
It
care
green
if
lighted your attention.
exactly.
To it.
I don't care if it takes me 10, 20, 30 years to figure this out.
You knew it was possible.
I knew it was possible because I did it.
Now that's deep.
And it's kind of like when you hit that ball, like, you know, when we played the 18th hole,
Yeah.
you had a one heaven, you know, I'll use that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
facts.
Yeah, one heaven of a drive there, brother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You probably hit a good, 200, 210. I mean, you made me really take a moment to make sure my setup was legit because I wasn't finna lead like that, bro.
I was like, okay, we're gonna get it right.
Hey, what Kanye said on that Wayne song, he's like, you know, you ain't about to murder me like everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Bro,
Facts,
you ain't about to murder me on my own. I introduced you to golf. You're not about to murder me here, bro. It ain't happening. So that's how good your drive was, bro, and that was dope.
Appreciate it, man. Shoot, I was learning from you, man. Yes, sir. Bro got that shoulder lean on him. I got to get that shoulder lean.
Yes, sir.
Shoot, hold on one second. Let me check this. Oh yeah, we still rolling. Okay. So, on that note, you play golf.
Yeah.
You play tennis.
Yep.
You trade stocks.
Yep.
You produce.
Yep.
You minister. I'm gonna throw that one out there because
Yeah.
you still minister. One thing and you say you're reading the Bible in a year. I think that was interesting to me too. But
Oh, yes, sir.
the connecting dots, man, and what I get from you is one word: dominate. So speak to that word because we talked about it before.
Okay.
But hashtag dominate.
Right.
How does that frame your lifestyle?
So I don't want to be selfish when I say this because the dominion mentality, the word dominate, that's not a term that's exclusive to me.
Yeah.
That's a mandate.
A mandate.
That God has given each and every one of us. You know, so I learned that principle from Genesis 1:26. You know, but I do want to give proper credit to Apostle Williams out in Virginia Beach. You know, he was the one that really introduced me to the dominion concept as far as dominate is concerned. And his mentor, which is also my mentor, is the late, great Dr. Miles Monroe that speaks about dominion. You know, so that's why I got that's where I got exposure from to the concept of dominion and dominate. So Genesis 1:26, it says, let us make man in our image and let them have dominion, right? Let us make man in our image, but let them have dominion. So what is dominion? Dominion is rulership. You know what I'm saying? It's control and authority over your circumstances and over the situations in your life, right? And when God gave us that dominion mandate, it wasn't over one another. It was over everything that God created for us to manage. Right, he said, "Let them have dominion over the birds of the air, the fish of the sea." Right, so I'm just being obedient to what God told me to do. He told me that I have control over all of the circumstances in my life, and the things that I don't have control over, He does. So I don't stress what I can't control. I give that to Him, and what I do control, I dominate in every shape, form, or fashion. So whatever I'm doing in life, you know what I'm saying, whether it's trading, playing golf, boxing, playing tennis, mentoring, you know, producing. You know, I try to be the very best that I can be at it and maximize my potential. And I approach it with 100% confidence. And if I haven't cultivated the confidence, I'm being respectful to, you know what I'm saying?
Respect.
Right. Because I still got a tongue on me. What Steve Harvey say? He ain't through with me yet.
Facts.
So I'm trying to be respectful, you know what I'm saying, of the house and the spirit of the podcast. But the point that I was trying to make that if I don't possess the confidence, I possess the spirit of determination by any means necessary. And so I kind of possess that Malcolm X, you know what I'm saying, standing by the window, standing by the door, you know what I'm saying, with the AR, you know what I'm saying, the AK, you know what I'm saying, the any means necessary attitude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's just what I possess, along with, you know what I'm saying, the lions. You see, I have lions all around me, you know, and that's part of dominion as well. You know, one thing
King of the jungle.
Exactly. But it gets even deeper than just being the king of the jungle. It's about, I don't want to say it, I'll give an example. You know, what makes a lion and an elephant different, right? When you think about the size and the scale of an elephant, right? Like if it wanted to, it could crush a lion, right? But when an elephant sees a lion, the elephant automatically thinks that it's the prey. It runs away because it doesn't want to be eaten. When a lion, right, sees the elephant, the lion thinks food, right? The difference between those two is attitude.
Hold that thought. Hold on 1 second. Let me change this right quick because this is getting good. We're gonna pop right back in.
You need a cushion for this seat, nigga.
Ain't no joke. Word. I'm glad you said that though, so now I know. It's time to get a new seat.
Nigga, at least a pillow.
Facts. But going off your last statement,
Okay.
as far as the elephant being able to crush the lion and it all coming down to mindset,
Right.
right? And the lion thinks, you know, food, and the elephant thinks he's the prey.
Absolutely.
It's crazy to think it's almost like whoever you think you are at that point, if you really believe it, that's who you are.
Right. With that key
And
word
the
being
environment
attitude.
responds.
Exactly. Right. Think about every time when you meet someone new, right? What do you say to yourself? Okay, let me figure this person out. You ask questions to try to figure out who this person is, because based on who they believe they are, is how you're going to respond. We treat people however they treat themselves. It is what it is, bro.
Respect. So let me say this too. Touching on the dominate part in the mandate, because essentially I feel like that we're in an era of competition a lot of times, but competition is not domination.
No, sir.
And you were saying like you always going out to be the best that you can be.
Right.
And I think sometimes even being the best that you can be, excuse me, not to say that. When you compete, and sometimes you don't become the best that you can be, because say the competition is lower.
Right.
So you winning, but you still haven't reached your potential.
Exactly.
So that goes back into the environment thing too. Like if you're in an environment that's kind of keeping you low, some people don't want to go to the next environment because they're at the top of this environment.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it's like, no, you are your only competition. So beat yourself.
Yeah. And I think you see it all the time. And let me make sure that I set the record straight on this. Don't get me wrong. There is a benefit to healthy competition, especially when you're doing things that require competing. Don't get me. I'm a very competitive person.
You don't say.
Obviously, right? You see what I'm saying? So no, I think it's good to be competitive. You know what I'm saying? But I think that the end goal of that competitiveness should be you being the very best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And when you have that mentality, there's always room for improvement. Because guess what? When you get to the number one spot, now you become the biggest target. So now you have to compete against yourself.
Yeah.
To keep pushing yourself and your potential
Work
to its limits. You see what I'm saying? And going back to that environment thing, you know, or statement that you made. Okay. Yeah, and going back to the environment piece, it's like the conversation that we just had in Applebee's, right? When I told you I was watching this TED Talk, and this guy had said that you can have the best intentions in the world, right, to change your life or to do whatever, to do, or use your willpower to do whatever it is you desire to do. But if you're not in the right environment, your environment will always trump and supersede your intention. So you have to make sure that your intentions, that you have the proper environment to manifest those intentions, or to bring those intentions into manifestation, right? Using the principle of the seed that we were talking about, right? You know, I just got into to growing flower, right? And I'm also into just gardening in general.
Yeah.
So I had saw on YouTube how people would take, let's say if they had a organic apple from Harris Teeter or something, right? They would take the seeds and then they would cause the seeds to germinate to try to grow their own apple tree. And that principle fascinates me because I know that God has made everything to reproduce after its own kind. You know, when God designed the earth, he had sustainability in mind. That's why everything that he created reproduces after itself. So naturally, I'm fascinated with that principle of reproduction, right? So, you know, we had an apple or whatever. I forgot the brand of this particular apple, but it's definitely organic, right? Maybe with let's say it was a Honey Crisp, right? So I thought, I drink smoothies every single morning. So I took the seeds out of this particular apple and I wet a napkin and I put the seeds inside the wet napkin and I put the seeds inside of a Ziploc bag, put it in the refrigerator. Forgot all about it, right? 2 to 3 weeks later, the seed had begun to sprout. It's germinated. So I was able to take these apple seeds that now has sprouts and plant them, and I was starting to grow roots. And it's fascinating. I'm seeing this happen, this principle manifest itself real time.
Yeah.
But that seed was only able to begin to maximize or exercise, in this case, its potential because I put it in the right conditions, in the right environment, right?
Yeah.
But let's say if I had the best intentions for this seed, but I left the seed on a windowsill. I don't care what I do intention-wise. Until that seed is in the right environment, it cannot germinate whatsoever. It can't sprout.
Yeah.
So we have to be put into the right environment to manifest what we desire in our lives. Because if we don't, it's almost impossible for those intentions to manifest themselves.
Environment is important.
It's essential.
It's essential.
It's an essential worker.
Nah, that might mess around and be the title, man, because it'd be weird stuff that just pop out like that to me.
Right.
And when you said that, it was kind of like to fulfill your destiny, you got to be in the right environment.
Right.
And it's like sometimes you got to seek out that environment too.
So,
you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. Like when
us talking is an environment.
Exactly, right. And so when I was, I'm from the west side of Chicago. I had went back home for a year. You know, to help my uncle out, but 2, to bring all the gifts and talents that I've been able to develop since I left from Chicago. I've always had this longing to go back home and give back.
Give back.
Because I've done so much out here in the 757 to help so many people, whether it's with my organization, the Institute of Dream Fulfillment, whether it was the original Dream or Die campaign, the motivational speaking, inspirational rapping, then the trading, you know what I'm saying? I've done a lot in this area, even in the political world for a little bit, right? And I always felt guilty to a certain degree. It's like, I love this area. I've been here since I'm 19 to 20, but I wasn't born and raised here. I'm born and raised from Chicago. So it was like at some point in time, I have to go back home and give back. And so that's what I was able to do when I went back home for a year. And going back home as a completely different person, or being back into the grimy environment, I felt that. You know what I'm saying? I felt the effects of that environment that I felt that when I had left and why I left. And so to try to protect my spirit, I had created something. It was like my own personal podcast, because I do meditations and Bible studies in the morning, right? And so when back in Chicago, I had created like my own personal podcast, and it was called Heaven in the Trap. So even though I was back in the hood, you know what I'm saying, I created my own oasis in that environment.
That's fire.
Right? Because as I was telling you once again at Applebee's, either you're going to be the influencer or you're going to be influenced. And since I possess a spirit of dominion, right? Anything or any principle that I don't agree with, I can't fall victim to. I have to dominate that energy around me or create it. And that's what I did. So I created my own podcast called Heaven in the Trap. And I did the best I can to make my immediate surroundings as heavenly as possible, even though I was in the middle of the trap. And everywhere I went, I carried that energy with me. And I received that back. And so I created Heaven in the Trap in that moment.
No, that's fire. That actually reminds me of like just how I try to keep my house too. Cause like, you're becoming this person, but you want to have the environment of comfort, peace, joy.
Right.
And even though outside it could be whatever.
Yeah.
When you come in your own house, it don't have to. It can be what you want it to be.
Right.
So like with me, it's all like podcast in here, studio back there,
right,
office right here. You know what I mean? Practice room here. I'm setting all these things up to where even if I move somewhere else,
right,
I got the blueprint.
Absolutely.
So that's dope. And it's Heaven in the Trap.
Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it says that love conquers all, and there's other quotes or sayings like foolishness rules when wise men are silent. So at the end of the day, history is always going to lean towards the side of righteousness. Righteousness is...
Now, which side is that on? Is that on the east side or the west?
And it starts on the west side all day. Right? But you can never go wrong when you're doing what's right. You know what I'm saying? We have the ability to do anything that we want, but everything is not permissible, right? But every day it's the decisions between doing a good thing and the right thing. And sometimes doing the right thing may hurt, but you can never go wrong when you do what's right. Now, there are moments, you know what I'm saying, when you meet that special someone, and if loving you is wrong, then I don't want to be right. Right? But you can never really go wrong when you do what's right.
Is a wordsmith. And, that one ain't him, was it? That was, I'm thinking of sexual healing. But the phrasing is like...
Yeah.
I think that's some stuff that even God be like, wait a minute, no. No, Lord, but when I get that feeling,
right?
Yeah. But
I need this type of healing, right?
But believe it or not, it is healing though. It can be a form of healing,
right? So, God does what He did for a reason. It all serves a purpose, but unfortunately, we pervert that.
Yeah, exactly. It can be healing or it can be poison.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't.
It can be very destructive.
Yeah, it can be poison too. Michael Bibbs.
Yeah.
Crazy. But I want to take this time, two things before we wrap it up. West Side. You're saying about giving back. I know you was talking about the clothing line.
Right.
Speak to that and kind of what you're trying to say with that.
So one thing about us from Chicago, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, people from every city, people from hoods all across the country in major cities feel the same about where they're from, but coming from Chicago, we're very prideful. You know what I'm saying? We're very, very proud of where we come from. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And if you're from the South Side, you proud to be from the South Side. If you're from the West Side, you proud to be from the... It's like we carry that as a badge of honor, right? And when you have so much admiration and respect from where you come from, in that sense of pride, it's valuable. You know what I'm saying? And so I've been blessed, to become successful, right? Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I prefer experience over nice things. But, I do buy some nice things here and there. And it just hit me like, you know what? I'm proud to be from out West. And why can't I cultivate, a luxury brand that represents where I'm from? You know what I'm saying? Respect to all the other high-end brands, right? That are based off of a family's lineage and someone's last name. But why can I do the same that represents where we're from, right? And so that's when I had the idea, for Westside Lusso. Lusso being, a luxury in Italian, right? And I also have Westside Genius Leader, which means that geniuses rise, right? Because I'm a genius. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna sit and be egotistic, but it is what it is.
And it's
You know what I'm
funny you
saying?
say that because I got to get you a shirt too. I was just thinking about that. I was like, I'm gonna give bro a shirt before he leave out of here
Right.
because I'm giving. The concept is everybody's not a genius, right? But everybody probably can have potential to be genius, right?
Absolutely.
But when you notice somebody else is like, okay, I think he's a genius, right? Or he has embraced and found that genius in himself and he's living it.
Right.
And I feel like I'm too a genius, and I feel like you a genius, and
Right.
and so my goal is to just give it to people that I think
Absolutely.
and they get that concept out because, like your boy Nip was saying, it was like he know he a genius, but he got no platforms to explain it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And I'm glad that you brought up Nip because it was also inspired by that. I got a chance to visit. I've been out to Slauson twice. To visit the community. Obviously when I went out there, it was after the unfortunate death of King. But both times I went out there, I went to the marathon store, and though it's pretty much condemned. Right, they got gates and everything up around it. I saw some other brothers out there repping Crenshaw. Selling some Crenshaw merch, which I supported, and I felt that same sense of pride from them when I was out there visiting. So when I went back home, I was like, you know what? We're very proud of where we come from as well. Like, we should have the same.
something similar,
Right? And there's people that represent the West Side. You know what I'm saying? All across the country. Obviously, you got the West Coast. I mean, you got West Side of Bronx, West Side of Charlotte. You know what I'm saying? West Side of Atlanta. Like so many
West
cities.
Side Baltimore.
You know what I'm saying? West Side of Memphis. Like when us from the West Side, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We love where we from. So like, bro, why we don't have our own luxury brand that represents who we are and where we from, and to be proud that despite what the media says about our circumstances or the conditions of our communities, not speaking of the redlining that created the problems that we have, you know what I'm saying, or the disinvestment, we still have geniuses in our community.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? We have billionaires in our communities, you know what I'm saying? And yes, it's unfortunate that every day we deal with, violence amongst each other, you know what I'm saying? But we still have love there, and there's still tremendous potential for greatness there that can be manifested. And I wanted to create a luxury brand that represents that, to where when you put on a West Side apparel, it represents not just where you're from, but the potential and the possibilities that you have despite where you're from. And that's what it's about. So it's a luxury brand, new luxury apparel brand that we are working on. That's West Side.
That's cool. West Side already.
And I have to say this, in the core of the West Side message is Dream or Die. And what Dream or Die represents is this concept that the wealthiest place on earth is the graveyard. Because every day when we hear about these murders that's taking place, we have brothers and sisters who God has given gifts and talents to, like to be solutions to problems we experience that we'll never see. Like, just think about some of our favorite artists that we appreciate, or movie stars, or businessmen, right? Like, how many Bill Gates are in a graveyard from our community? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, even if you look at the people that already popped.
Right.
And got killed.
Right?
It's like, how much more?
Right. So when you think about how many people die every day, that's robbery. And that's the issue that I have with the spirit of murder in our community. It devastates me because I have love for everybody because I'm naturally curious about the gifts and talents that God has given everyone to be a blessing to me. So I don't want to see anybody die. I want to help everybody maximize their potential because I'm curious what they have for me to enjoy and experience is going to be a solution to my problems. If I knew you were born to bless me, why do I want to hurt you?
Fact.
That doesn't make sense to me. So when I see the spirit of hurt, the spirit of, of hate, the spirit of murder, it's devastating because, like, bro, we're killing the very people that were created with the gifts and talents to bless us.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story, bro. But I'm very passionate about that. But that's the purpose of it.
Definitely respect. And we're going to tie all this back up in together because you had me out there on the golf course today, and obviously there weren't that many black and brown people out there, right?
Okay.
But it made me think, like, I too feel like you can learn something from everybody, right? And everybody has something to give. And it was like, and you had talked about how the game of golf can be a stress reliever, right?
Man,
and what you're doing, you channeling your aggression, but you out in nature.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? It's like you getting that nature connection while also becoming one with yourself, to be at peace, to be able to hit the ball in the right way.
Yeah.
And angle it in the direction to get it into the hole.
Right.
So it's a lot of things that are together, but it made me think, like, we could have not did something like that because, that ain't our normal culture or environment.
Right.
Right? But I say all that to say, and I notice you have that kind of energy because you say you do experiences. Get out there and just do different stuff, bro. Like, I think that's one thing I really admire about you. Just, one day we might do tennis, or we might try this, we might try that, because everything has its own message in it.
Right.
And so, for people that might be doing the same thing, and they're like, man, I ain't doing all that. Try something different, bro.
Right.
Stop just doing the same thing every year for your birthday. That was a dope birthday present for me. So
dope. That's what's
up. Yeah. How has it been a stress reliever for you?
I mean, so now I'm gonna say something, and then what I'm about to say is funny. It makes practical sense, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, because I have, like I told you on the golf course, bro, I only see two colors, and that's green and red. You know what I'm saying? Let's get this money together. We all bleed red. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm really big on character, not skin color, right? So let me put that out there, right? So I read this this quote about black inventors way back in the day, and it was profound to me. And it said that a black man invented the toilet, and he made it white for a reason, right? So this is going way back during, the times of segregation, you know what I'm saying, when things were really bad as far as racism, right?
Uh-huh.
And so,
it's true.
So, hey.
No, black man did invent the toilet, as you saying though.
Yeah. Right. I don't know his name, but I remember that quote. And it was one of those double entendres almost.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's freaking funny, I know.
It was pretty funny, you know what I'm saying? And I can understand why he felt that way.
Yeah.
And with some of the experiences that we have, right? I can understand why some of us feel that way to this day, or when particular events happen, right? And so sometimes, I'll say, it's like a golf ball is the only thing white we can hit and not go to jail. Right? And that's not some type, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that in some type of reverse racism type of way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's kind of piggybacking off of that original concept, and so I started golfing when we had back-to-back innocent shootings. You see what I'm saying? Of unarmed black men. You know what I'm saying? Just that whole energy at that time.
At the time, yeah.
And in marching in the streets and just wanting to be destructive. And I grew up in Chicago when the Bulls were winning. And so during those times I've been a part of destroying my own community. Right? And so I didn't want to go and do that again.
Yeah.
Because it didn't make sense.
Facts.
With the new mentality that I have, that okay, yes, I'm angry about what's happening, and I want us to have justice, and I'm going to march and I'm going to do my part, but I don't want to go and destroy, other people's businesses, especially that are providing services to the community.
Facts.
Right. So, what's another constructive way that I can deal with this aggression, right, in a positive way? And I found that in golf. And so with golf, it was like this perfect conundrum of being able to relieve stress. And that's just not racial tension stress. That's relationship stress. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with issues of trust in relationships, or family issue stress, right? You know what I'm saying? Or just stress from being depressed or just money being low. It could be for anything, right? It was just a great release. You know, like some people, they have like destruction rooms now. Well, you know, there was a time when I did there were some times when I did some demolition work, and I got paid to destroy. They gave me a sledgehammer, like, yo, let's see how many walls can you tear down. And I'm like, bro, you finna pay me for this? Like, yeah. So you mean to tell me the more that I destroy, the more I'm getting paid? Oh, it's on and popping. I'm knocking everything down, right? You know, so it was kind of like that type of being able to channel that energy, you know, physically in a way. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But in order to do it, you had to position yourself the right way to get the result and the effect that you wanted to get. Because as you experienced, right, the harder you swing, the more the ball ain't going nowhere, right? But when you get the technique right, and you swing it the right way, and you hit it perfectly, and you're not even swinging hard, but it goes like you did. You know what I'm saying? And it's fulfilling. So when you take that feeling of hitting something, you know what I'm saying, with everything you got, you know what I'm saying, but with a different type of energy, and it just connects in a way that it sounds, it's therapeutic. And then you look around and the sun, you know what I'm saying, it's gleaming, but behind it, the trees, and the wind's blowing and birds are flying, and you see the sun glistening over the water. You know what I'm saying? It's green everywhere. It's peaceful and serene and it's tranquil. And it all just comes together. It's like heaven on earth almost. And it becomes very addictive. And then you have these different obstacles that you have to overcome too. So it's always these challenges that you're always faced with. Because you never know where the ball is going to land, but you have to adjust accordingly to achieve your goal. You know what I'm saying? And so it's all biblical in a way. And it's just like trading as well. So yeah, so that was definitely my therapy. I feel the same way about tennis too. You know what I'm saying? But tennis is just much more of a more compact sport, but the principles are the same. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Me and this cat could we could go on for hours, man.
We probably had to do a part 2.
Yeah, we
we gonna have to.
I just thought about that. I said we gonna have to do a part 2 because
we ain't talking.
We ain't cover everything.
We ain't talking about no females.
We ain't cover everything.
We ain't talking about algorithms turning $3,000 into $15 million.
Facts.
None of that.
Shoot, man, but what I wanted to say then here. Oh, first off, where can they check out your stuff? Find you at? Shout out your socials and stuff.
So I'm really low key, you know, but for the sake of the podcast, you know, I can be found on Instagram at Mr. Adams IDF, you know, but I like to stay low profile.
Or like whatever, you know, your website.
Yeah, so I do have a website, you know, for the masterclass. I haven't made it officially available to the public yet, you know, but for your viewers, if they would like to learn more or just learn the basics about options trading, I do have some free video lessons available on the website that's currently under development. Okay. And that's www.masterclasstrading.com.
Okay.
You know, so still under construction, but we got about 3 of the semesters up so far that are available for free. That's something that I'm building to give back as well. It's like my own online version of Tuskegee Institute, like me being a 21st century, you know, Booker T. Washington, like building this online options trading course for our people, you know what I'm saying, that's for free.
Facts. Shoot, man. Well, it was a pleasure having you on here, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Salute to everything you represent.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a part 2, bro.
You reading my mind over here. It's like, I don't really want to end it, but, you know, we not guys at the time. Yeah. But, yeah, man, it's all about healthy ways to relieve stress. I would encourage anybody, you know, go out, try something different, and dominate. Definitely dominate. And when you're sipping that tea, put your pinkies up, and don't forget to sip slow. Sip slow.
Let's go.